Hi everyone, this is Sean. Please like this video, subscribe. If you've been subscribed, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. A video like this is almost guaranteed to get some people to unsubscribe. Maybe about 5 people will do that after watching the video. That's totally fine with me. If you don't like the content, you don't like the political speak or the political analogies that I discuss in this video, that's your right not to hear me anymore. I wish you the best. A couple of days ago, or actually yesterday, I made a video on Assembly Bill 2847. If you are an armed private security officer in California, you need to watch this video. There is going to be, in effect, July 1st of this year, the new microstamp technology law that requires every new handgun or every new gun that's entered on the California Department of Justice roster to have microstamp technology. That technology does not exist. However, that law is going to exist. You're going to get a lot of manufacturers that are going to start removing their guns from the list. You're going to get some people that are going to panic buy. So please watch the video. I'll leave a link in the description box below. About an hour after I showcased that video I was just talking about, I found a new Assembly Bill. It's Assembly Bill 876, if my memory serves me right. That was pushed by a California Assemblyman from Woodland Hills called Jesse Gabriel. And what essentially it does is it requires microstamping for all new law enforcement guns. So those of you who are saying, hey, law enforcement should not be exempt from these laws, I agree with you 100%. And by the way, I am law enforcement, but the ideas that I present in this video, the opinions, reflect my personal opinion, not of my employer. Those of you that are hearing me say that, you know that I'm going to say some things that are going to piss a lot of people off, and that's fine. So that microstamp law is it's going to if this passes, it's going to trickle down to law enforcement. We have about 86,000 law enforcement officers in California. Every 4 to 10 years, the majority of law enforcement officers or law enforcement agencies, they tend to swap out their firearms with something that's newer. They can no longer do that with a newer handgun because the newer handguns need to have that micro stamping technology. And by the way, microstamp technology is a fairy tale. It doesn't even exist. There's no manufacturers that have it. So what California legislators are essentially doing is they're making a requirement that is not feasible. It's just not fair. Let me just show you how much Assembly Bill 876, how much it does not make sense. So let me talk about the dynamics of a lethal force encounter with law enforcement. If a law enforcement officer is engaged in a lethal force encounter and they use their firearm, there's going to be casings on the floor, on the ground, or not. That casing is obviously collected. Now, a supervisor has the ability to ask the officer, and they should, how many rounds did you fire and in what direction? You can't lie if you're the law enforcement officer. And those of you that are listening to this, keep in mind that a lot of law enforcement officers do not remember how many shots that they fired at the suspect. They don't remember. You don't, in real life, you don't say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I fired 5. No, they can give an idea, but the round count is usually off. You usually get an estimate. When with what I just told you, that the law enforcement officer is required to tell the supervisor how many rounds are fired, that already shows you that this microstamp technology makes no sense. So essentially, when an officer fires a weapon, examiner will examine the serial number on the primer of the spent casing, enter this number, have a magic fairy enter the number, and then the registered owner of that firearm that spent that casing will appear. Well, guess who the registered owner is for most law enforcement firearms. It's a law enforcement agency. The law enforcement agency. Don't these legislators, don't they think about these things? So you're trying to identify the law enforcement officer that fired the gun when they're already required by state law, the government code, to give a public safety statement indicating how many rounds were fired in what direction. You're trying to identify it. I'm skipping around my words right now because it just doesn't make any sense. Why you need to identify what gun it came from. So let's just say you have multiple shooters. You have multiple officers who are engaged in a gunfight. You have Smith and then you have Ruger. Okay, they both have the same weapon, same cartridges. Now, obviously, one cartridge is going to have a different microstamp serial number than the other cartridge. So Smith's will be different than Ruger's. They're going to enter both serial numbers into the Magic Fairy database, and poof, appears a registered owner. 2 officers involved in a shooting, and still the registered owner is a law enforcement agency that they work for. Now, some agencies allow officers to use their personally owned weapons. That's even better. You examine the casing, you waste your money, department resources, send it off to a lab, spend time and resources, have a forensic analysis show that this casing came from your particular weapon because of the striation marks, not striation mark, but all of the firearm markings that usually occur when a round is fired. It just makes zero sense. So Jesse Gabriel's rationale, his other rationale, is that gun manufacturers will begin serving the law enforcement community because we have over 86,000 in California. The departments will start demanding these manufacturers to implement microstamping technology that, by the way, doesn't exist. And as a result, they are going to manufacture hundreds of thousands of safe weapons that have these microstamps for law enforcement. When they do that, they are going to create microstamp technology for the civilian sector as well. Because right now, AB 2847 is not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to pressure manufacturers into creating microstamp technology. So they're thinking maybe we just pressure law enforcement. We just put the knife to the back of law enforcement, and hopefully law enforcement will be pressured to have a discussion with the gun manufacturer community. And if you are in the gun manufacturing community, please listen to my message. Do not bow down to any of these requests. Deny these requests. I beg you. They are totally unconstitutional. For you chiefs of police, commanders who belong to the local chiefs and police association at the state level or federal level, you guys should have been attacking these bills as they pass, and starting with AB 2847. You guys should have went hard on them, because what ends up happening is now the microstamp technology just jumped on your lap. As a police chief, a police commander, this is what I think is going to happen. These gun manufacturers, they obviously manufacture firing pins and everything that is needed in order to run a firearm effectively. So for example, the Glock, you might have to exchange the extractor maybe after 10,000 rounds, maybe past that. Firing pins sometimes need to be replaced. If the gun manufacturers, if they're smart, they would stop shipping these parts to California. That would essentially cause a lot of law enforcement agencies to not be able to service their firearms, and they might actually, the chiefs associations and the sheriff's associations might put a lot more pressure on not the gun manufacturers, not their fault, but on the legislators that pass these crazy bills. Guys, come June in California, we have we have an election year. If you vote Democrat, you're voting for this nonsense. A lot of these screwed up Democrats, by the way, they come from the San Francisco area. If you are in San Francisco, please vote. And please don't vote for a Democrat. Right now, at this point in time, it doesn't matter which Democrat is running for office. My vote would automatically be no. Now, you might be thinking about the Republican Party, Sean, you know, you're just conservative. Right now, Republicans, even some screwed up ones, in order to get votes, they're pushing against these common sense gun control legislation. They're pushing against it. A lot of things, a lot of laws that are against these common sense legislation, they're being pushed by Republicans who want more votes. The Republican pushing the votes, they may not want to even touch the gun control subject, but they have to. They're competing with the Democrat part. So let's take advantage of these situations, you guys. And I'm telling you, the Democrats that you vote for, especially the San Francisco area, they later on become senators. They become vice presidents. They become Secretary of States. The U.S. Secretary of State. They move on to Washington, and they contaminate the American people with all of their left-wing philosophies. And being left-wing, there's nothing wrong about it, you guys, but they're just pushing it so far that it becomes socialist ideology. Don't worry, guys, I'll almost be over. I'm reading a book by Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Cooper, founder of Gunsight Academy. He served in World War II. One of the most respected authors, respected lieutenant colonels in the U.S. Marine Corps. He wrote To Riot, Shoot Straight, and Speak the Truth 2 years before his death. The California assault weapon ban was passed in the year 2000. He wrote this book in 1998, and he said this: "We dare not throw even one passenger out of the sleigh for the wolves. The wolves have never been satisfied with one passenger, nor will they be now. If we are to say that automatic weapons are unnecessary and throw them to the wolves, it will be only a short time before we find that semi-automatic weapons are going to be banned, and then repeating weapons, and then short weapons, and then all weapons. The people who are against us do not want us to own weapons of any kind." Any kind. This is page 10 of To Riot, Shoot Straight, and Speak the Truth. I bought this right at Gunsight Academy. Lieutenant Colonel Cooper is also a popular historian. He actually taught history at the local college. This book was written 2 years before the assault weapon ban. So look at, they banned automatic weapons. He talks about banning semi-automatic weapons in California. Remember, we put bullet buttons, magazine locks on our AR-15s so that we don't have to, so that they're not classified as assault weapon, because assault weapons are illegal. Now they ban bullet button rifles and now reclassify them as assault weapons. That's not an assault weapon, by the way, you guys. Colonel Cooper, in other videos, he talked about the left going after ammunition. Well, a couple years ago, California passed this new ammunition background law, one of the only ones in the country. So now, if I want to buy ammunition, I need to go do a background check just to buy one freaking bullet. Okay, they are coming after our weapons, you guys. Handguns. They create this handgun roster. Now there's about 20 to 30 guns that we could be using that I think are good guns for private security sector. Good guns. They fit in the majority of the holsters, 20 to 30. That list is going to go down. There's right now about 780 guns on the handgun roster. Not every gun is an effective duty weapon for private security and for the private citizen. There's only a handful of them. They're doing this to us, and it's for control. It's for control. Because what ends up happening now is local law enforcement starts to lose control. State law enforcement. Now the control goes back to the federal government. Federal government gets to dictate ultimately what weapons that you have. The state, so a lot of these politicians went from California and now they're trickling into the White House, okay, on the Fed side. And they're bringing all of their philosophy over there, you guys. So please, no matter who it is right now, don't vote Democrat unless you really know the person. In our area, we have a Democrat, a very good candidate. He's a Democrat for district attorney. I know of his character, I know of his qualification, and I will vote for him because I know him. You should not vote for anybody that you don't know about, but if you're skeptical, if it says Democrat, I would probably go on to another party, you guys. And also, those of you who don't vote at all, you are also creating madness in California. A no vote at all is what it is. It's actually a no. Let me rephrase this. A no vote is a vote for the Democratic Party. In California, we have a super majority. It's like about 86% of Democrats are in charge of the country. Their philosophy is totally getting out of control. Let me know what you guys think about this video. What do you see in the future? Take care.